In the gentle folds of the English countryside, between the rolling green meadows and neatly trimmed hedgerows, lay the tranquil village of St. Aldwyn's. With its weathered limestone cottages, cobbled lanes, and a rather persistent smell of freshly baked scones from the High Street bakery, the village seemed the very picture of peace. The church of St. Mark's, its tall spire pointing proudly to the heavens, stood at the village centre like a watchful guardian. Miss Jane Marple, resident of nearby St. Mary Mead, had been invited to stay for a fortnight at Rosewood Cottage, belonging to her old friend Mrs. Beatrice Lockwood. "A change of scenery will do you good," Beatrice had insisted. "And besides, our village FT is this weekend, such a to-do." Indeed, Miss Marple had accepted warmly. She enjoyed village FTs almost as much as she enjoyed the quiet hum of gossip that came with them. And while she was never one to admit it aloud, she had a peculiar talent for recognizing familiar human flaws beneath the most charming of surfaces. Upon arriving, Miss Marple found St. Aldwyn's pleasantly bustling. Beatrice Lockwood, a rotund, rosy-cheeked widow with a fondness for lavender perfume, welcomed her with open arms. "You must meet our new vicar," Beatrice said as she poured tea in her drawing-room. "Reverend Peter Altham. Such a gentle soul. Though I must say he's been a touch distracted lately. Poor man looks as though he's lost his spectacles half the time." Reverend Altham had come to the parish only 6 months earlier, following the retirement of the beloved Reverend Simmons. Young, no more than 35, with sandy hair, a soft voice, and a nervous tendency to fiddle with his collar, he was well liked, though many villagers felt they hardly knew him. Miss Marple murmured thoughtfully, stirring her tea. A distracted mind often hides a troubled heart. The first sign of trouble came the very next morning. Miss Marple and Beatrice walked to the church for morning prayers, only to find a small group of villagers gathered near the latchgate, whispering anxiously. "Is something the matter?" Beatrice asked. It was Mr. Harold Pritchard, churchwarden and owner of the local bookshop, who answered. "It's the vicar, Mrs. Lockwood. He's nowhere to be found." "Nowhere," Miss Marple repeated. Harold shook his head gravely. "Didn't turn up for morning service. The vestry is untouched. And Mrs. Pembroke, she keeps the vicarage, says his bed hasn't been slept in." A ripple of unease ran through the group. Perhaps he left early for some pastoral duty. Beatrice offered, though her tone betrayed doubt. "Unlikely," said Harold. "Not without informing someone. And no bicycle missing either." Miss Marple listened, her blue eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "Has anyone searched the grounds?" "Just myself and young Tom Weaver," Harold replied. "But there's no sign of him." Before the villagers' worries had time to settle, Constable George Ellery arrived, a notebook tucked under one arm, moustache twitching with mild panic. St. Aldwyn's, after all, was a place where the most serious offences usually involved a wandering cow or a dispute over garden fences. "I'll begin a proper search," he declared. "No cause for alarm yet." Yet Miss Marple saw alarm creeping into every villager's eyes. It was then that another villager approached, Emily Carter, a shy, pale young woman of about 20, employed as the church typist. Harold," she stammered, clutching a folded paper. I found this on the vicar's desk." Harold unfolded it and read silently, his brow furrowed. "What does it say?" Beatrice demanded. He cleared his throat. "It says, 'Forgive me. I can no longer bear the weight of what I have done,' and it's signed Peter." A gasp ran through the group. "A suicide note," whispered Mrs. Dawkins, the baker's wife. Emily burst into quiet tears. "It can't be. He was kind. He wasn't the sort." Miss Marple gently placed a hand on her arm. "My dear, very often people are not as they appear. But that does not mean they are beyond understanding." Beatrice stared at the note, shaking her head. But what could he possibly have done? Before anyone could speculate further, Harold spoke. "There's more. Underneath he's written, 'Tell no one.' It must end here." Miss Marple's eyes, sharp as ever, caught something the others had missed. "Harold," she said softly, "you look troubled." He hesitated. "It's only the handwriting, it's odd." "In what way?" Miss Marple asked. "Well, Reverend Altham always loops his P's and writes with a slight slant. This is different." Miss Marple took the note delicately, examining the strokes like a poem. Quite different indeed." And then, from somewhere near the churchyard, Tom Weaver, the young gardener, came running, breathless. "Constable, Miss Marple, I found something." Everyone followed him to the rear of the church. There, half hidden behind the yew trees, lay the vicar's pocket watch, its chain broken. But more troubling still, the watch was smeared with a dark rust-like stain. Miss Marple bent down to inspect it calmly. "Not rust," she murmured. "Blood." The villagers looked at each other in dread. The disappearance of the village vicar had just taken a very dark turn, and Miss Jane Marple, who had encountered far too many of life's darker corners, felt the unmistakable stirrings of murder in the air.